Hi, and welcome back. This is session 3, and by the way, one of my favorite sessions, self-talk, the key to healthy self-esteem. You know, if I had to pick one thing that I could teach my children that would be one of the most valuable tools they could acquire, it would be this one. When you think about the fact that the average person has 300 negative thoughts a day, that's a pretty compelling thought, isn't it? That means that you literally are beating yourself up every 2.5 minutes. How powerful. No wonder you always feel bad or drained or incapable or not good enough or guilty. The thoughts that you put in your head, food for thought as I call it, is just as important, if not more important, than the food you put in your stomach. Because you are the sum total of your thoughts. And I guarantee you, your anxiety is created by your thoughts. And it's also controlled by your thoughts. And recovery is possible by the thoughts that you give yourself. When you learn the skill of positive self-talk, it's going to make you so much more effective in every area of your life. But what you have to do first is recognize that negative thinking is an addictive, bad habit that you've gotten into. That's right, it's a bad addiction. In other words, you say, well, how can that be? Well, let me tell you something. Anything that you practice over and over and over again, the better you get at it. Whether it's being negative or worrying or being an angry person, the more you practice it, the more you do it, the more second nature it becomes. And you may be looking at this program right now and saying, oh, you know what, I think I've heard all this before, or boy, this is just too long, there's too many tapes, it's too much work, or I've had this too long. I'm just telling you, all the negative thoughts, all the negative statements we've heard through the 15 years we've been doing this. I've had this for too long, this isn't going to help me, or I've been on every medication in the book and they didn't work, what's different about this? Or I've tried other programs and they didn't work, how is this going to help me? Well, part of the reason you haven't gotten better is because no one has shown you this negative side. And the interesting thing is, when I was told that I was a negative thinker, I didn't believe it. I thought I was one of the most positive persons that walked the earth. At least I appeared to be positive. But we aren't. We beat ourselves up constantly. We scare ourselves. When we feel a rush of adrenaline, why can't we see it as excitement? Instead, we see it as some awful, bad thing. We're having a heart attack. If we have a pain in our stomach, we've got stomach cancer. If we have a pain up here, we've got breast cancer. If we have a pain up here, we've got a brain tumor. That's how we think. We are worriers. We are negative thinkers. Nothing we do is ever good enough. No one ever lives up to our expectations. And that's what negative thinking is all about. So what you have to do, it's kind of like an alcoholic. You have to recognize that you are addicted to this negative behavior. And then you have to say to yourself, I love myself unconditionally, and I'm a good person, and I want to be happy, so I'm going to recognize that this is part of my negative, addictive behavior, is negative thinking, and I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to be patient with myself, and I'm going to overcome it. Now, something I'd like you to do this week is go out and buy a little spiral pad and track all your negative thoughts. Because it's amazing. When people would come into group and we'd say, all right, list 10 or 15 negative thoughts that you had this week, they could never think of any. So we found that if you carry a little notebook around and every single time you have a negative thought, pull that little flip notebook out and write it down. I don't care if you're at work or if you're at home or even if you're in bed. Keep it by your bed. Write down that negative thought. I think you'll be amazed at how many negative thoughts the average person has. And we're not average, right? Because we're perfectionistic worriers that are analytical and over-concerned about everything. So write down your negative thoughts. And then you want to leave a space so that you can replace that negative thought with something that feels better. And that's really, really hard for some people to do. It talks about it on the tape, and we tell you how to do it in the workbook. But let me tell you a little bit how I did it. When I started working on thinking positive, this was so hard for me. I didn't grow up in that kind of environment. I grew up in an environment where we communicated with guilt and fear, and we even controlled each other with guilt and fear, and that's very negative. So when I had to start trying to make myself feel better, I didn't have a good role model. I didn't know what to do. So what I did is I thought, you know what? What would I say to my sister? And she, unfortunately, died of cancer 2.5 years ago, but she was somebody that I really, really loved a lot. She was one of my best friends. So when I said to myself, what would I say to her if she said, I didn't do that right, or I'm not good enough, or I look like, you know, dog meat today? What would I say to her to make her feel better? And I started saying it to myself. Or what would I say to my husband? And now, what would I say to my children if they were beating themselves up? Because I am really, really good, and I bet you are too because you're sensitive, at making other people feel good about themselves. Why couldn't I do it for me? So that's what I started doing. And you know what seems to work for a lot of people? Stop yourself when you're having a negative thought. A red stop sign needs to come up in front of your face and say, I'm doing it again, and I want to stop this. I don't want to be this way anymore. I want to feel better about myself, and I'm the one that has the power. You have the power. So you say to yourself, what would Lucinda tell me to say? How would I replace that thought? How would she replace that thought for me? Be careful not to go to extremes. Like you get up in the morning and you say, boy, I feel really fat and ugly today. And then you say, no, I don't. I look like Raquel Welch and I feel great. You're not going to believe that. So what you say is, hey, I don't feel fat and ugly. I just don't feel very energetic, but I'm going to dress in something really comfortable. I'm going to fix my hair a little differently. I'm going to take a great snack. I'm going to take a great book. I'm even going to take my little cards, and I'm going to make myself have a good day because I want to have a good day. You know, when you get in your car in the morning and you say, it's a cloudy day, I don't feel good, I don't want to go to work today, I feel fat, I don't like so-and-so at work, I wish I didn't even have that job, there's 6 negative thoughts. How long is it going to take you to get to 300? Not very long. It's up to you. You need to make a conscious decision right now that you don't want to live this way anymore because life is too much fun, because it is. And it's not about, one of the things I always tell people, it's not about somebody else making you happy. If you're in a relationship that you feel isn't really good, or you're in a job situation that you don't feel really good about, or there's something going on in your life that you feel it just isn't making you happy, you know what my suggestion is? Don't do anything about it right now. You're too green. Wait until you get through this program before you make any major decisions, because you don't want to make any decisions based on improper information. In other words, you're blaming somebody else for the fact that your life isn't working, or you really think you're not happy because of something someone else is doing, or you don't want to ever make a decision based in fear. So wait till you get through the program and you get some of these skills down. And one of the most important skills you need to work on this week is positive dialoguing. You know another thing about positive dialoguing? It's addictive. It's really addictive. And why not become addicted to the good stuff? Your body doesn't know the difference. I mean, the good stuff feels the same as the bad stuff, only it feels better. So let your body become addicted to doing things that feel good. I remember my husband, David, came downstairs one time, and he was all kind of, shuffled. His hair was kind of messy. He had a holy T-shirt on. He was going for a bike ride. And I remember looking at him and thinking, boy, he really looks kind of cute and sexy right now. But I didn't tell him. Why didn't I tell him? You have the power to make your kids and your husband and your coworkers and your employees and employers and everybody feel better with just a simple statement like, boy, you really look great today, or wow, I really like your hair, or is that a new dress? It's beautiful. Or you know what? You just really made me feel good when you did that for me. Thank you. Start complimenting people every chance you get. Start today. And especially yourself. Start writing affirmations about how good you are and how attractive you are and how smart you are, how creative you are, how good you feel, and how good of a parent you are. You're a good mom, you're a good dad, you're a good spouse, how lucky people are to be in your life. And tack them around on your mirror, tack them in your car. Read some things about yourself that make you feel good. I'm a strong person, I'm a confident person, I'm a good person, I shine, I feel good. People enjoy my company. I enjoy my company. And you know what that's going to do for you? You're going to get more and more comfortable with being by yourself, because that's something people like us were never very good at either, being alone. Because if the truth be known, we spent that time alone being negative and beating ourselves up. This session is so important. If you don't grasp it right away, go back and listen to this tape again. I guarantee you'll hear some very important information the second time around. And it's extremely important that you continue dialoguing your negative thoughts throughout the rest of this program, because this is one skill you really want to grasp. And once you get it, you can teach it to your children and your mother, and maybe even your mother-in-law and your husband and your best friend. See you next time. Okay, we're back. So how you feeling right about now? This is week 9. This is a great topic. They're all great topics, though, and that's what's so important about this program, Attacking Anxiety. It's so holistic. It's so complete. It covers so many things. You know, the thing that's so hard when you go to a therapist or you take a medication and you wonder, why isn't this working? Sometimes it's just not enough what they're teaching you. And let's go back to the 3 elements for recovery. If you understand that you are creating your anxiety, that's wonderful. We understand now that it's not caused by some biochemical imbalance in my brain that I can't control. Because when you use all these skills to control your thoughts, you control that biochemical imbalance. We know it's not caused by some inner ear infection. We know it's not caused by something outside of you that you can control. So you know you cause it by overreacting and over-responding to things that happen in your world or to other people. Okay, so we know that. But what we need to know is that emotions like guilt and anger and worry and fear, those create anxiety. Because when you get angry, you have that adrenaline response going rapid. And sometimes those feelings scare you. When you feel guilty and you worry and you beat yourself up, that makes you anxious. Because, again, it's about expectations. You feel like you're not living up to your expectations. So you know you create your anxiety. Number 2, skills, skills, skills. That's what you're learning right now. You're learning, what do I do then when I'm angry? What do I do when I have all these expectations? What do I do when I feel guilty or when I worry? What do I do when I'm sitting in that plane in a turbulent flight and I feel like I'm going to lose control? Those are the skills, and that's what you're learning now. And self-talk, which I hope you're getting really, really good at right about now, is one of the most important skills you're going to learn and that you're learning now. You make yourself feel better. It's only turbulence. It's not going to hurt me. I'm going to be okay. You talk to the person beside you. You read magazines. And we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about working on some of those things. But what you want to do is you want to set yourself up in order to give yourself the best opportunity for success in overcoming your anxiety and your fears and your limitations. You have to have those 3 elements in place. You have to understand that you're creating your anxiety and that you can control it with your thinking. You have to have the coping skills to work through an anxious episode, and then you have to go out and face those fears. And facing your fears is a very big part of this anxiety process. And before we get into the guilt and worry segment, I want to talk for a minute about that. Set yourself up for the best opportunities for success when you go out to work on your limitations. In other words, if your thing is flying, book a flight an hour away. Just take a short flight and go somewhere, maybe with a friend, and have a destination to go to. And take magazines to read. Take a set of headphones, and take your cassettes with you. Talk to the person beside you. Take some Pepto-Bismol or some Imodium AD or whatever it is you need to take to make yourself feel better. Some Dramamine. You know, have a little goodie bag full of the things you need to get through that flight comfortably. And learn as much as you can about flying so you're no longer afraid of it. If your thing is driving, then drive on a highway on a Sunday morning at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning when the traffic's not so heavy. And have a good friend follow along behind you. And give yourself permission to get off at any exit you want, but choose a destination. And remember, any victory, anything that you do is... Any little thing that you do is a victory. Give yourself credit for even the smallest accomplishments that you do in your life. Okay, getting along here and moving on to guilt and worry. When you read the definition of guilt in Webster's dictionary, the definition is the fact of having done something wrong. The fact of having done something wrong or committing a crime. The next time you want to beat yourself up about something you did or didn't do, which is past guilt, or something you are or are not doing, which is present guilt, ask yourself this: is it a fact that I'm really a bad mother, or that I'm really a bad husband, or that I really didn't work hard enough today? And if it's not a fact, then it's not. And are you really guilty of committing a crime? If it's not a fact and you didn't commit a crime, you're not guilty. You see, guilt is just another way of beating yourself up. There is a purpose for guilt. The purpose for guilt is it defines the borders between right and wrong. I mean, there are some people in the world who feel no guilt, and they're sociopaths, and they're institutionalized. So you want to have a certain amount of guilt in your life. As a matter of fact, in a few minutes, we're going to take a little guilt quiz. So take a second now and grab a pen or pencil and a piece of paper. Okay, we're back. First of all, when you talk about guilt, you need to understand that it's something that you need to do something about. In other words, if you're holding on to something about your past that you feel guilty about, one of the most effective things you can do is go back and apologize to that person. And this really does work. We had a lady who went through group who was angry at her ex-husband for like 3 or 4 years after the divorce. And she felt like it was partially her fault that it didn't work out. And she really wanted to apologize to him. And I said, go back or call him up or write him a letter and apologize. And she said, but what if he's obnoxious and mean and doesn't accept the apology? That's the whole point. You're not apologizing to get his response. You're apologizing so that you can let go of it. It doesn't matter what the other person says or does. What matters is that it's a closure for you. So write a letter, call the person up, go see him. Don't mail the letter, burn it, but do something to get rid of that old guilt. And if you're having guilt about something that's in the present moment, ask someone else's opinion. Maybe you feel like you're a bad mother because you work, or maybe you feel like you're a bad husband because you forgot to get your wife a Mother's Day present. Well, ask someone that knows you well. Are you indeed? Is it a fact that you're a bad husband? Is it a fact that you're a bad mother? I think you'll find out chances are good it's not a fact. Okay, now let's just take this fun little quiz, and we'll see how you score. And it's really pretty easy. What you want to do is you want to number your page 1 through 15. Now, I don't know about you, but I just love these little self-evaluation tests because it kind of tells you a little bit about who you are. Let's just see if you are a guilt-ridden person. Okay, statement 1. Just simply answer yes or no and write yes or no on your paper. I get defensive when someone criticizes me. Yes or no? Be honest. Statement 2. I'm critical of myself on a daily basis about something. Yes or no? Statement 3, I don't feel like I get enough done in my day. Yes, I feel that way. No, I don't. Statement 4, I sometimes fall short of my own expectations. Don't we all? Yes, I do that, or no, I don't. Statement 5, I don't work hard enough. Yes, that's true, I don't, or no, I work plenty hard enough. Statement 6, I have a hard time letting go of my past mistakes. Yes, I have a hard time, or no, they don't bother me at all. 7, I don't spend enough time with my children. Now, if you don't have children, it could be other family members, mother, father, whatever. I don't spend enough time with my children. Yes, I feel that way. I don't spend enough time with them. Or no, I don't feel that way. 8, I don't give my spouse enough attention. Yes, that's true. Or no, it isn't true. They get all the attention they want, and we all know that's not true. Okay, 9. I worry about what other people think of me or my family. This is a big one for us, especially women. Again, it's a direct reflection on who we are as mothers, as wives, as people. If everything around us and in our lives doesn't look perfect. So, yes, I do worry about what other people think of me or my family, or no, doesn't bother me at all. Be honest. I get my feelings hurt easily. Yes, I do, or no, I don't. 11, I need to lose weight or take better care of myself. Yes, I do. Or, nope. 12, I have bad habits that I can't seem to break. Yes, I do. Or no, I don't. 13, I often feel as if I'm disappointing someone in my life. Yes, I often feel that way. Or, nope, don't feel that way. 14, I don't like to hurt other people's feelings. Yes, I feel that way. I don't like to hurt people. Or, nope, doesn't bother me at all. 15, I feel guilt easily. Yes or no? Now take a minute and add up how many yeses you scored. Pretty high? Okay, well, before you get too, neurotic about this and start thinking, oh my gosh, I must be a terrible person, I must have a lot of guilt. Let's take a look at the score. For one thing, guilt is a natural emotion. And if you didn't have guilt, there'd be something wrong with you. Again, if you scored 0 to 3, you don't have a lot of guilt, but you also probably don't have a lot of sensitivity either. You probably are a little bit self-centered. You don't feel disturbed when you think you hurt someone else's feelings. You're not a very sensitive person. And that's really not the healthiest score. You need to work on being a little more sensitive. If you said yes to 4 through 7 of these statements, actually, good for you. This is a very healthy perspective. You have a certain amount of concern for others, but not at your own expense. You also have a healthy self-esteem. If you said yes to 7 through 10 of these statements, you're a little too sensitive. You're the kind of person that other people take advantage of. They push your buttons. They make you feel guilty, and it works. If you said yes to 11 or more of these statements, Oops, are you a guilty person? And what this means, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. What it means is that you're so sensitive that people push your buttons and they get the reaction and the response they're looking for, and you've trained them. You've trained them that they can make you feel bad. Let me give you a great example. I'm Miss Stress Expert, right? Well, I do the best I can, but I'm only human. And not too long ago, we went on vacation, and my 10-year-old daughter came home, and the house was a mess, and things needed put away, and we were all disorganized, and I'm saying, oh, we've got to unpack. And Brittany comes running in the kitchen, and she gets out the flour, and she gets out the sugar, because we like to bake and do things, and she says to me, Mommy, can we bake something? And I said, no, not right now, Brittany. We need to put things away. And she said, Mommy, do you know how long it's been since you've baked with me? You haven't baked with me for da 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 da. And I looked at her face, and I could see it. She was pushing my buttons. She was trying to make me feel bad. And I did feel bad. I found myself saying, when was the last time we baked? When was that? And then I thought about, wait a minute, I'm a good mother here. She's not going to do this to me at 10 years old. Believe me, we are all guilty of making other people feel guilty because it's effective. It works, but it's not healthy. She should have said, you know what, Mommy? At 10 years old, though, she has no concept, right? You know what, Mommy? I'd really like to bake. And when I said, no, not right now, she should have said, no problem. Can I help you unpack? Of course, that's not realistic for a 10-year-old. But what I did was great. I looked at her and I said, hey, you're not going to do that to me. I'm a good mommy. Go unpack your bag. And she did. And it was over because she realized that she wasn't going to get the response she wanted. So think about it. The next time you're beating yourself up, is it a fact? Do you deserve this? Or are you overreacting? Are you over-dramatizing something? And then what can you do right now to eliminate that guilt? Let's talk for 1 minute about worry. Worry, when you worry and use the same skills you use when you goal set. You can actually use your worry time to make your dreams come true. You're saying, what? How do you do that? If you're a worrier, there's something I want you to try. This technique is very, very effective. Okay. What you want to do is, starting tomorrow, try this tomorrow. Oh, go ahead, start it today. What the heck? The next time you want to worry about something, I want you to set that aside in your mind until 10 o'clock tonight, 9:30, whatever. Right before you go to bed, that's when you're going to worry about it. And you're thinking, I'll never get any sleep. Wrong. What I want you to do is as you're going through your day, something comes through your mind. Oh, I'm not making enough money. Oh, I didn't do this right. Oh, why did she say that to me? Oh, what about Tommy's Little League game? You know, whatever it is you want to worry about. I'm not going to worry about it now. I'll worry about it at my designated worry time, which is like 9:30 tonight. What you're doing is you're putting it out of your precious present moment, okay? And guess what happens by 9:30 tonight? Half the time you've forgotten half your worries. So they're gone. It's over. They weren't worth worrying about anyway. The other half of them, what you do is you focus on the ones that really need your attention, and then you get a piece of paper and you write down 3 or 4 of the things you're worried about and ask for a solution. And what I want you to do is when you go to bed that night, you lay in bed and you ask yourself, how can I earn more money? Or, why don't I get along with my boss? Or, why am I worrying about my health so much? And believe it or not, there is a chance that you will dream the answer. See you next week. Hi, and welcome back to session 11, High Anxiety, the Truth About Medication and Alcohol. You know, as I look through these little blue cards, I just want to thank a dear, dear friend of mine, someone who's worked with me from the beginning of all time here, Carolyn Dickman, because she put these little cards together and they're just wonderful. And she did a great job, as she does with our newsletter, which if you haven't received that, it's just incredible. It's, you know, what we're about at the Midwest Center, and I think you've probably figured that out, is helping people help themselves. And it's taken us a long time, and it hasn't always been easy. It's been a lot of work. The biggest success I've personally seen has been the success of my book, From Panic to Power. But for most of the time that we've been doing this, we've been very slow growing, and we've been reaching out to people who couldn't afford to go anywhere else. And we've never turned anyone away for help. And we do a lot of things that I feel really, really good about as far as helping people. These little cards are so wonderful because they just kind of remind you about what you were studying in that particular chapter or on that particular tape. And just great little information here. This particular topic is very controversial because I know there are some of you right now who are watching these tapes who are on Xanax or Buspar or Prozac or Zoloft, and you don't want to stop taking it, and the list goes on. I mean, you know, Pamela, we could name all of them. And I'm not saying that you should go off your medication. That's a decision that only you can make. I'm saying be informed, be educated, look at the options available to you. And also, you need to know that a lot of people, many, many people, have gone off their medications as a result of using these tapes. So if you're doing the work and you're really making an effort, there's a really good chance that you can get off your benzodiazepines. We're talking about Xanax and that type of medication. And there's a good chance you can get off your antidepressant medication. I try to do a lot of research about medications because I want to keep updated about what types of medications are in the marketplace and, you know, what the detrimental side effects are and the positive, the pros and the cons. And I guess what concerns me a little bit that's been happening over the last several years with medications is that they pop these medications out, and then the drug and the pharmaceutical companies, of course, who make the money from these medications, do these outcome studies, and of course the outcome studies end up benefiting the pharmaceutical companies because these outcome studies end up saying things about these medications and making them look like they're the answer to everything. I know there was an article in a recent magazine that said Prozac should be put in our water supply. Well, I disagree with that. For one thing, Prozac can be a very effective drug, but it can also have detrimental side effects. Some people just can't tolerate it. Antidepressants can affect your sex drive, your sex life. They can make you seem a little more agitated or disturb your sleeping patterns. And anti-anxiety medication can make you actually more anxious. Or when you go off of it, your benzodiazepines, you can end up with your panic attacks being increased instead of decreased. So you need to know all of these things about medications, and you really have to weigh the odds. You don't want to be on benzodiazepines when you're pregnant, and you don't want to be on antidepressants when you're pregnant, and you don't want to be on any of these drugs for a long period of time. And if anyone tells you antidepressants are not addictive, I beg to differ, because there have been studies that have proven that for many people, when they go off their antidepressants, they end up with more severe symptoms of depression than when they started. Therefore, they go back on. Isn't that addiction? It's such a gray area. Certainly, if you're taking medication, don't alter it, don't change it, don't cut down on it, don't go off of it until you talk with your doctor. Take the program in, show them the program, show them the tapes, show them these videos. I have the utmost respect for anyone in the medical field that's had the stick-to-itiveness to go through medical school and then has the drive and desire to just really help people. Unfortunately, because of all the things that are happening in managed care right now, we don't have the options we used to have for help. Our time with our doctors is limited, and many of us are dealing with these unbelievably huge deductibles. I think my deductible is $1,000. And I think it's $1,000 per family member. How many of us use up $1,000 worth of doctor bills in a year? So we're paying these enormous amounts for our insurance, and then we have to pay for our deductibles, so we pay for our doctor visits, and then we need to go in for psychological help, and that's not covered, or we're limited to 2 or 3 visits, and you can't treat anxiety disorder in 2 or 3 visits. That's why this is a 15-week program. This program is a wonderful value because you know what? If you go through this program and in 30 days of working with this program, you feel it's not helping, pack it all up, send it back, and we'll refund your money. But you know what? How many therapists will do that? How many therapists will say, come and work with me for 30 days, and if you're not feeling better at the end of 30 days, I'll give you your money back? No, they don't do that. And if you think for 1 minute that those pharmaceutical companies don't want you to use their medications, you're wrong. They want you to use their medications. You know, the bottom line is medication has a place. And it can be very, very helpful. But I really believe that benzodiazepines should only be used for a short period of time. And that's if you're so anxious, you literally cannot function. And then you step in with a behavioral cognitive program like the Attacking Anxiety program. And then when your doctor pulls you off that benzodiazepine, which he or she will eventually do if they're a good doctor, you're not sitting there struggling with panic attacks that have gotten worse and worse compulsive and obsessive behaviors. You know, the bottom line is, you have to learn to do for yourself what that medication isn't doing anyway. And let me just kind of explain what I mean. Let's say that I had a little cut on my arm right there, and I looked at it and I thought, boy, where do you suppose that came from? Well, I don't know. I'm just going to put a Band-Aid on it and maybe it'll go away. And then a couple of days later, my arm's kind of getting red and it's sore, and I pull back the Band-Aid, and now that big sore, it's about like that big, and I'd go, whoa, look at that. Boy, that really hurts. And you put some of that, you know, Neosporin on it and cover it with a bigger Band-Aid, and you say, boy, I hope that goes away. And then a week later, the thing's eaten up half your arm. Would you do that? No. You'd want to know what? What's causing it? That's what you do when you take medication for anxiety, folks. You are putting a Band-Aid over the wound, but you're not getting to the cause of the wound. This program gets to the cause of the wound. What caused it in the first place? Why are you hurting and bleeding and feeling so bad? Don't just put a Band-Aid over it. That's all medication is. And when that Band-Aid comes off, the wound is still there. You're still a perfectionistic, worrisome overreactor, and now you don't have any medication. Now what? Now your anxiety may be even worse. And heaven forbid, you may even end up with some side effects that you didn't have before you started it. So what am I saying here? I'm saying be informed. Read the literature. Read the pamphlet. Ask your doctor questions. And by the way, antidepressants, sometimes you have to try 4 or 5 of them before they find the one that works for you. But even, I used to say antidepressants, I feel like they're okay. I don't feel like they're okay anymore because I really do think they're a little on the addictive side. Anything you come off of and your symptoms get worse and you have to go back on, that's addiction. So ask your doctor about these drugs. Ask your doctor if he or she would take these drugs. Ask your doctor about side effects. And don't ever increase your medication on your own. Always work with your doctor. Let's talk for a few minutes about alcoholism, which is something I know a lot about because I had a lot of family members that were alcoholic. And unfortunately, my father died from alcoholism, and I had a brother who suffered with alcoholism and died at the age of 40. If you're someone who feels, well, for one thing, there's a test in this book that tells you if you have a problem with drinking, and I really believe it's true. And I really believe if you drink every day, if you have to have alcohol every day, I think you have a problem. I think you're an alcoholic. And I think the first thing you have to do is admit it. And if you're someone who can't socialize or can't function on, you know, that kind of level, a social level, without drinking, then you have a problem with alcohol. If you're someone who uses alcohol to calm yourself down, you have to have a couple of glasses of beer a night or a glass of wine or 2 a night to go to sleep, you have a problem with alcohol. Did the anxiety create the alcoholism, or did the alcoholism create the anxiety? I personally feel the anxiety created the alcoholism, and that's another reason why it's so important to get a grip on it right now. You know, genetically speaking, alcohol is in my bloodline. But for me, it's kind of weird. I never liked drinking a whole lot because it made me feel spacey and not here. And I already felt spacey and not here. And I wanted to feel in control. And alcohol just made me feel more out of control. Do I think you need to go to the extreme where you don't drink at all? No. Again, it goes back to happy mediums, you know, nothing too extreme. If you want to have a glass of wine with dinner, you know, a couple of times a week, I don't see a problem with that. But if you're drinking to alleviate the symptoms of anxiety, if you're self-medicating with alcohol, it's not a good idea. If you're taking anti-anxiety medication, I'll be real honest with you. I think if you're taking 1 or 2 milligrams of benzodiazepines during the day, and you've been doing it for a couple of years, you need to find another doctor or talk to your doctor about why you're still on this medication. I really think 6 months to a year is about as long as you want to be on a benzodiazepine. Antidepressants are another story. If you go through a program for anxiety disorder and you still feel hopeless and helpless and depressed, then maybe you need a mild antidepressant. But you know something interesting about depression? Very often over time it heals itself. If you're suicidal though, if you just feel like you can't function, you may need a mild antidepressant. And there are many, many available. And if you have mood swings where sometimes you feel really, really high, like you could fly to Europe without a plane, and then the other time you feel like you just want to kill yourself, then you need to talk to a doctor, because there's something called bipolar disorder, which is mild mood swings. And we all have that. But well, a lot of people with anxiety have it. But if your mood swings are very severe, like one minute you think you could buy things you can't afford, and the next minute you're suicidal, that might be something else. It might be manic depressive disorder, and there's medication for that, and you don't need to be afraid. You know, you really need to stop making decisions based on fear, and you need to stop being afraid, and you need to stop relying on medications to make you feel better when you can do it yourself through diet and exercise and controlling the way you think and controlling the way you let other people control you and controlling things like guilt and worry and negative thinking. All of those things tie together. When you learn how to control the way you react and respond to things outside of you, when you learn how to control your emotions, when you learn how to control the way you think and react and respond and live your life, and you eat differently and you drink differently and you exercise, you're going to start feeling good, and you won't need the medication anymore. And you're going to start to know when that is. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week for Session 12. Well, guess where we are? We are on session 12. Now I have to tell you, this one is the courage to change, and it is one of the most challenging sessions of all time. The reason being, and you're not going to believe this, I know you're not going to believe this, but it's true. We get something out of all of our negative behaviors. In other words, by letting yourself stay anxious, and this is a good point right now in the program, this time in the program, because by remaining anxious, you actually get something out of that anxiety, out of that negative behavior. And of course, right about now, you're thinking, me? I hate being like this. I don't have any independence. I feel kind of scared and afraid all the time. I'm not making good decisions. I don't feel in control of my life. I don't like this anxiety. But believe me, you're getting something out of it. This was a really difficult realization for me, and it took me a long time to get it, that I was getting something out of this negative behavior. But I really believe we get something out of every negative behavior, and I want you to really pay attention in this chapter, in this session, and if you don't get it, go back, listen to the tape again, because this is probably, let me put it this way, if you're not where you want to be yet, it's probably because of this right here. You're getting something out of it. There's a payoff. There's a payback. We call it secondary gains. You're getting something out of staying stuck in this old negative anxiety. Well, what could I be getting? Hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something I haven't done yet. I'm going to actually use a little bit of this workbook because it's just so good. And I'm going to move forward to secondary gains, which is on page 85 of your workbook. I remember, and I tell this story, I don't know if I told the story in the tapes, I don't think I did, but I remember when I went off to college, and I told you earlier that my father was an alcoholic, and I spent so much of my life as a teenager thinking I wasn't good enough to go to college. And yet, when I finally did go to college, I got a 4.0. I thought I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't good enough, I didn't come from a family with money. We grew up in the brown shingled house at the end of a dead-end street. Therefore, my family, we didn't go to college. We barely went to the doctor. We certainly didn't go to college. So I just didn't think I was good enough. And by the time I was 18 and I was enrolling in colleges and I was looking for financial aid, I remember feeling this overwhelming feeling that the world owed me something. That, I have suffered long enough. I grew up with this alcoholic parent. I had a rough life. The world owed me something. And it was so funny because I sat in that line and I went and I talked to that financial advisor and I said, this is my situation. My father sold cars, but he was an alcoholic. We didn't see any of his money and I need financial aid. Unfortunately, my father made too much money for me to get financial aid, in spite of the fact that we never saw it. And that's when I realized that, guess what? Life isn't fair, and people don't want to hear your sob story. And you can spend the rest of your life justifying why you have a right to your misery, and why you have a right for your anxiety, and why it's there. And guess what? Nobody will care, and you won't get any better. So you have to make a conscious decision right now that you want to get over this anxiety no matter what, and you want to gain control back in your life. And you have to be willing to say, I'm creating it, I'm going to take responsibility for it. Let's talk about some of the things you can get out of having an anxiety disease or an anxiety disorder or even depression. Let's take a look at some of the things in the workbook. All right, the first thing that we get from this anxious behavior is attention. And you might think, no, I don't, but I think back now when David and I were dating and I was severely agoraphobic, and he would baby me to some degree. He would, what are you feeling? Or how are you feeling it? And I'd be running to the doctor and people were concerned about me. So sometimes you get attention from this disorder. Maybe people are running your errands for you or doing things for you because you can't do them yourself. Maybe they're babying you and pampering you. This is what it was for me. It was a great justification of my not being able to move forward. In other words, I was afraid to make a career change. I was afraid to get out of a bad relationship because what if I ended that relationship and I couldn't take care of myself? Or what if I changed my career and my anxiety got worse? So it was a justification of staying right where I was. I didn't have to take any chances. I didn't have to worry about failure. I didn't take any risks. I played it safe and stayed in the anxiety disease. And that was easier, I thought at the time, than stepping out and taking a chance and maybe failing. All right, avoiding getting close to people.
You know, when you come from a dysfunctional family, getting close to somebody in a marriage or in a personal relationship or even a friendship is very, very difficult. And when you say to yourself, you know what, if people really knew me and they knew I had this problem with anxiety, they wouldn't like me. It justifies why you should never get close to anybody, because you might get hurt. When you get into a relationship, you're taking the risk of getting hurt. So having that anxiety justifies your reason not to get into intimate relationships. So avoiding doing things you dislike doing. This is another one. Maybe, and this is hard too, because you reach a point when you start asking yourself, am I not going to the concert because I'm afraid to? Or am I not going to the concert because I just don't like the opera, or I don't like concerts? Or, you know, am I not going to see the president speak because I'm afraid to go into a large crowd? Or do I just not want to go? Am I not going to this art festival because I don't want to deal with traffic because of my anxiety? Or do I just not like traffic? So it's the kind of thing where you'll go through a period where you know where you were wasn't working. You know who you were wasn't working, but you're not sure who you're changing into. So you're kind of confused, and you're questioning, is this anxiety? Is that why I'm avoiding this? Or do I just not like to do this? You know, I remember, and this is a little bit off the subject, but I gotta tell you about this story of a time when I went skiing, and I was my first time skiing, and David took me out west, and I was in lessons, and there was a very heavy-set woman, and I tell this story in the book. There was a heavy-set woman, and she was in my lessons with me, and I remember riding up the chair lifts, and I could hear her giggling and laughing. She was a couple chairs up, and we all got off the chairs, and I went down that hill, and let me tell you, it was a steep hill. And my heart was going 90 miles an hour, and I couldn't breathe, and I thought, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. I was scared to death. And I got down to the bottom of the hill, and I'm breaking out in a sweat, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, do I really want to do that again? Well, this heavy-set lady comes down the hill, and she's like, I know she was feeling all the same things I was feeling, and she was wobbling down this hill like I was, and she was going, Yahoo! And we got down to the bottom of the hill, and I thought, man, I need to talk to this woman. Why is she going Yahoo? And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm dying, I'm dying. That was my mantra. So I rode up with her, and I said, hey, why is it we're going down the same hill at the same speed? I am scared out of my wits, and you're having the time of your life. And she said, hey, look, I'm feeling the same thing you're feeling. My heart's pounding, my hands are sweating, I feel like, whoa. She said, but I look at it as excitement, and you're looking at it as fear. Why can't you learn to see? And this is what you need to do, because right about now, you should be breaking out of that shell, boy. You should be out and doing things you've been avoiding. You should be driving and flying and socializing and making the next step in your career and doing all those things you've always wanted to do but were afraid to do. And you need to do it and feel the fear and do it anyway. But look at some of those feelings of fear as feelings of excitement, because they're the exact same feelings. Okay, so maybe your anxiety is keeping you from avoiding things you dislike doing. And that's really important too. You know, maybe you just really don't. We had this guy, here's another incredible story. We had a guy come to one of our seminars who was a truck driver, and he absolutely hated being a truck driver. And so he got panic disorder and agoraphobia, and then he couldn't drive his truck, and then he went on disability. And he came to my seminar and he said, hey, Lucinda, my wife bought me the tapes and they didn't work. And I said, okay, let's talk. What happened? What's going on? Tell me your story. And he said, well, I'm a truck driver. And I said, do you like being a truck driver? And he said, no, I hate it. And I said, well, then why don't you change careers? Well, to make a long story short, hey, what would happen if he overcame his anxiety disorder? He'd have to get back out there and drive his truck, wouldn't he? And he didn't want to do that. So it was his excuse. It was his way of avoiding doing something he didn't even want to do. Wouldn't it be easier just to make the conscious, deliberate, intelligent decision that you hate truck driving and try something else? But the reason it wasn't that clear to him is because that would have meant he had to try something new. And the anxiety of trying something completely new totally overwhelmed him. What we don't get is that stepping through and doing things in spite of the fear, yes, it feels anxiety producing, but the freedom and the sense of accomplishment that comes with doing things that took a lot of risk. Boy, the things that I have done. I remember when I moved to Los Angeles and all the people that came out of the woodwork to tell me how crazy I was. What? You're moving to Los Angeles? The fires, the riots, the earthquakes. What's wrong with you? You know? Very few people came forward to say, good for you, go for it. I knew in my heart that that's what we needed to do to make all of this other stuff possible, the book and the television shows and the things that are happening, so that I could really open my heart and the skills that we have and help as many people as we could. I knew we had to move to a big city, and this seemed like the right place. But everybody came out of the woodwork, and this is what will happen to you, to tell me that I was doing the wrong thing. And you know what? It was the best thing and the right thing, and probably one of the most responsible things I've ever done. And even if it fell apart tomorrow and didn't work out, and I moved back to Ohio, I'm so glad I took this risk, because it gave me a whole new level of confidence, and that's what's going to happen to you. When you look at the beginning of this homework, it talks about what are some of the resistances? What are some of the things that keep us held back? Well, you know, some people grew up in Catholic families, and there's nothing wrong with Catholicism, except that the old Catholic ways came with a lot of guilt. And I knew I grew up with some guilt, and that really hung with me for a long time. And I felt like there was someone upstairs keeping score. And so it made it very hard for me to put myself first. And if you truly want to heal, once in a while, you've got to put yourself first, and you've got to think about yourself. Nobody understands me. No one else has ever had it as bad as I've had it. No one understands what I'm going through. That's simply not true. And what it does is it justifies why you should stay where you're at. Staying where you're at will not make you recover. You need to move on. Insecure behavior, where it's like you're putting the blame on everyone and everything else but yourself. You really believe that you aren't the cause of this anxiety. It's something outside of you. And again, that takes the control out of your hands. I am challenging you right now, folks. This is session 12, the courage to change. Let's see what our little blue card says this week. Fear of change. Change is a part of life. Victim thinking. I am responsible. You're no longer a victim. You know when you stop being a victim? When you start saying, hey, it's my responsibility and I'm going to change my life. And this program will do that for you if you do the work. I'll see you next week. Hi, it's me again, and this is session 13, Time Management, 12 Steps Toward a Balanced Life. Balanced life, you think that's possible? Well, wouldn't it be kind of interesting, as Carolyn once described to me, if we could take our 24-hour day and divide it into 3 segments, 8 hours of work, 8 hours of play, and 8 hours of relaxation. Now, how many of us do that? None of us do that. Many of us, many of you, work 10, 12 hours a day. Many of us rush home, try to make dinner, balance our children's lives and our spouses' lives, or just an independent life, whatever your life is. And it's not easy, and we're always tired, and we're always stressed out. And that's what we're talking about, managing our time better. What is time management anyway? Can you manage your time? Is there such a thing? What do you do in 24 hours? You know, it irks me when people say, I don't have time to read a book. Don't say you didn't have time to read a book. Say you didn't take time to read a book, because you have 24 hours in your day and you choose what to do with it. Every single person should be taking a half hour to an hour for themselves every day to do anything, something that they want to do. I do. As I said before, I walk 4 miles a day, almost every day. And I usually try to take some time by myself at night after I put the kids to bed to just kind of hang out and do nothing. I need nothing time. When I think about it, it's kind of funny, because when I was agoraphobic, I hated nothing time. I couldn't stand nothing time. It was non-productive. I had to be busy. As I said before, busy, busy, productive, productive. And now, nothing makes me happier than doing nothing. We've all heard the old saying, don't just stand there, do something. Well, I say, don't just do something, sit there. And that's what I say in my book. Because sometimes doing nothing is the healthiest decision. But believe me, it does take a lot of work. People with anxiety are afraid to have time to think, time to do nothing, time to be alone, or time to just be. Those of us with anxiety subconsciously are afraid of having too much time on our hands. Have you ever noticed when you have a lot of time on your hands, that's when your anxiety really, really gets worse? I know it's not uncommon for people to go away on vacation and call us up and say, boy, I went on this vacation to relax, and yet I can't seem to do that. I seem to be really nervous. I'm worrying constantly. Or the man or the woman who retires and they wanted to just have fun and spend time with their family, maybe go fishing and golf or whatever it is they do, and now all they can do is worry. Their anxiety's gotten worse. Maybe that's even when their anxiety started. We're not comfortable with time on your hands, with time on our hands. So that's one of the things you really need to do. You need to work at getting comfortable with doing something just for nothing. In other words, go take an art class or a dance class, or start a garden, or pick some good books at the library and just sit and read. Give yourself permission not to be productive, because when you do that, again, it releases your body's own endorphins, and these are your body's own natural tranquilizers, and it actually calms you down. Get comfortable with sitting with yourself in silence. Let's look at some of the things in the workbook that we tell you to do in good time management skills. This is so important. At the beginning or the end of the day, take a look at what you need to do in a day. And this is so important. You know, people like us with our hyper type A personalities, we jam 500 things into your day. And what we do sometimes, and we were talking about this earlier right here on the set, is we sit around at night and think about 100,000 things we've got to do the next day, and we can't sleep. What you need to do is you get a piece of paper, you get a tablet. I really do keep a tablet. I actually keep it in my bathroom drawer with a pen. And if something starts rolling through my mind about all the things I've got to do tomorrow, I get up and write them down. Because if you don't get up and write them down, what are you going to do? You're going to lay there and go, I need to do this, I need to do that, I can't forget to call so-and-so, I need to get this done. Write it down so you can put it out of your head and go to sleep. So what you need to do is at the end of the day, take a look at what you need to do the previous day. And then ask yourself what you can eliminate. Right off the bat, what can you get rid of? What can you delegate to somebody else to do? You know, a lot of us don't give enough to other people. Are you a good delegator? Because if you're having time management problems, I guarantee you right now, you're not delegating enough. If you're stressed out and pushed too hard, ask yourself why. Ask yourself what in your life is causing the most stress. Now you might say, well, it's my children. Well, what about your children? Are you organizing your time well so you have time alone with your children? Are you drinking too much caffeine so by the time you get home, you're irritable with your children? Do they have extracurricular activities? Is it your spouse? Can you give your spouse the attention they want so you can have time to yourself? Because it's all about having more time for yourself. I guarantee if you're feeling stressed out, it's because you're not having enough self-time. And self-time can be anything from walking on the beach to sitting in a bathtub to going to an exercise club, taking yourself out for lunch, or going to a movie. But you need self-time to stay healthy. Okay, let's just take a look at some of the other things. Break the day down into segments and choose the most important errands and chores for the day and decide in what order you wish to do them. Now I want to talk about something. Everybody's got downtime in their day. Did you know that everybody's got a time of day when they feel up and a time of day when they feel down? Now for me, for some reason, mornings, and I think this is common to a lot of people, about 10 o'clock in the morning, man, I'm charging. I'm ready to go. I've got a lot of energy. That's when you should do your meetings, your presentations. Plan it that way. So your mornings are when you're doing your power stuff, okay? At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm usually like, do-do-do-do-do-do. That's when I lose my energy. That's when you return calls. That's when you write. That's when you do your creative things. Did you know you're most creative when you're most exhausted? So if you're really trying to write that book we talked about earlier, get up and write at 2 o'clock in the morning. You'll be amazed what will come out of your brain at 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Don't overload yourself for a day. It's better to underload yourself. And then if you feel comfortable and have extra time and energy, you can always add something to your day. And don't feel guilty about underloading your day. Again, it's about taking responsibility for the amount of time you have in your life. I always manage to arrange in my day a period of time when I have time to myself. And I always manage to arrange my walk in my day. And I always manage to have time for myself at the end of the day. And guess what else I've gotten really good at? I've gotten really good at just saying no. And I say no a lot. You know, it amazed me how I used to say yes to things that I knew I didn't want to do because I felt like I had to further my career or something. And I'd say, but wait a minute, this isn't something I even really want to do. So I started saying no. And it's amazing how much faster my career progressed because I had time to focus on the things that were going to get me to my goal. Take a break during the day to relax and think about positive things or read a book. Have a more relaxed attitude toward time. This is so important too, and this kind of flows into the next session, which is stress and stress management. You know, walk more slowly, talk more slowly, drive more slowly. You don't always have to be to everything on time, and you don't always have to be there early, and you need to stop beating yourself up. Okay, this is a good one. When you feel tired, stop. When you've had enough, give yourself a break and back off. Lastly, you need to watch the people you hang out with. Stop hanging around with people who drain you and take all of your time and don't appreciate it. And you know the kind of people I'm talking about. I know when I had anxiety, unfortunately, I had a lot of friends that demanded my time and my energy, and it drained me, and there was nothing left for me. So choose your friends carefully. Start hanging out with positive people who want to stand back and watch you soar, because after going through this program, that's exactly what's going to happen. I'll see you next week. Well, you know what? I've got so much good stuff here, and it's just been so much fun going through it, from the workbook to the tapes to the book and these little cards and all this stuff. And there's videos. I mean, there's videos and there's other tapes, and I just don't see how anyone can't look at all this stuff and use all this stuff and not get better. I really think getting better, though, it's up to you. It's a decision that you make, that you've had enough and you're moving forward. And this is session 14. You probably wonder why I'm kind of dressed up. It's because you're going to graduate pretty soon. And I'm excited for you. And I'm here. And we're always here. And the Midwest Center is always here for you. We've got some wonderful, wonderful people there that really care about what you've been through, that have been there from the beginning of time for like 14 years. All you've got to do is pick up the phone. And if you're having any problems, write us. We've got a great staff of people who will write you back. We're there for you after you finish the program, and as long as you need us. All you got to do is pick up the phone or send us a letter. And if you want to, don't hesitate to go back through these tapes again and go through them one at a time, or pull out the various tapes that you feel you need to listen to right at that moment, the anger tape or negative positive dialoguing, that kind of thing. But listen to the tapes again, because I guarantee you, you get so much more out of them the second, third, and fourth time. The book, From Panic to Power, is a wonderful way to follow up the program. There's so many things in here that I want to share with you, and I've shared just a few things with you, but this session is how to keep stress from becoming anxiety, and I think that's kind of an interesting title. And what is stress, and how is it different than anxiety, and how do you keep stress from becoming anxiety? But I want to start by talking or sharing this little segment from the book with you. It says, finally, remember to stop and smell the roses. Look around. The most wonderful things in life aren't about stress and pressure. They're warm and beautiful and free. A spectacular sunset, the smell of fresh flowers, the feel of soft grass beneath your bare feet, a warm caress from your child or friend, a good laugh, a good book, and a warm blanket. These are the things that make up a peaceful life. Keep it simple. If I had to give you one skill for eliminating some of the stress in your life, that's what it would be. Keep it simple. Whenever you start overreacting and getting neurotic and worrying about things that are out of your control, keep it simple. Use that. Those 3 words. Say it to yourself over and over again. What can I do today to keep it simple? What can I do in this disagreement to keep it simple? What can I do as the coach of my son's Little League to keep it simple? What can I do with my job to be productive and keep it simple? What do you think of when you think of an efficient secretary? Do you picture someone running around like a chicken with their head cut off, doing 500,000 things at one time, work, 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 work? Well, that is not the definition of efficient. The definition of efficient is getting as much as you can done with the least amount of effort. And did you know when you back off and make a conscious effort to slow down, you actually will slow down? It's the same thing as breathing. When you consciously try to slow your breathing down, your breathing slows down. And when you breathe more slowly, you calm down. It's the same thing with your life. You'd be amazed at how much more effective and efficient you would be if you would just calm down. And being calm is a conscious decision that you make. But it also has to do, we go back to diet. If you're drinking Pepsi and coffee and eating chocolate and you're not exercising, you're not going to feel calm. You're going to feel irritable and tired. You're going to start dragging about 3 or 4 o'clock. But if you start changing the way that you live your life, and you start changing the words that you put in your head, you're going to start feeling better, and you're going to start feeling more calm. But it all starts up here with the messages you give yourself. An example would be if you're sitting in a traffic jam and you know you can't go anywhere, and you know you're going to be late to a meeting, and you start, hashing it out over in your mind and obsessing and beating yourself up that you're late. What is that going to do? Is that going to get you there any sooner? No. What it's going to do is it's going to cause an adrenaline response in your body that we talked about before. You're going to release adrenaline. It's going to go coursing through your body. Your heart's going to start to pound. You're going to create anxiety. You're going to create the stress response, and you're not going to get there one moment sooner. Whereas if you would sit back, put in a cassette, and say, okay, I'm going to be late. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to make some good use of this time. I'm going to listen to some of these tapes. I'm going to concentrate on what I'm hearing. I'm going to enjoy the next few minutes to myself. See the difference? It's a conscious decision you make. Don't say someone is stressing you out. You have chosen to be stressed out. Another thing you ought to do, and I don't talk much about it in the program, is delegate upward. And I I really believe that, the going joke is when I was in school, and I went back to this after school program or continuing education program several years ago after I had founded the Midwest Center, and my professor said, "You're one of the most driven people I've ever met. What's your drive? Where does it come from, Lucinda?" And I sat there and I thought about it, and I thought, gee, the only thing I can say in response to that is that I am divinely driven. And I know that sounds a little corny, and we've all got a right to our own spiritual beliefs, but I honestly don't know how I would have gotten through all the pressures of growing this business and all of the challenges I've been faced with over and over again, all the times I've been knocked down and told I couldn't do it, I can't tell you how many times in growing this company alone that I was told I wouldn't be able to do it. And I've done it. This company has done more to help people help themselves and educate the public about anxiety than any other source worldwide. And we enable people to take the power in their own hands. And we're not funded by a pharmaceutical company. And we're not huge, but we've grown quite a bit, and we've helped a lot of people. And what's done it for me is when all else fails, I just put my faith in God. And I do believe that there is a higher power that we all have to be able to fall back on when we're just too tired to do it ourselves anymore. And I personally call that delegating upward. And it's helped me so many times. And I also talk about in the book that I really do believe when something happens that didn't work out for you, instead of beating yourself up and saying, why didn't this go my way? You know what? Maybe there's a reason, and maybe something better is just around the corner. Because I do believe when God closes a door, somewhere He opens a window. So you need to start looking for the open window. If something didn't work out, if that job didn't work out, maybe it wasn't supposed to work out. And it's this kind of mindset that helps your stress level so much, because all of a sudden, okay, that didn't work, but you know what? Something better's coming. Okay, that relationship didn't work out, but you know what? It wasn't meant for me. There was a reason for it. It's called faith. It's called faith that somebody a little bit bigger than you and a little bit stronger than you and with a little more knowledge than you is making a difference in your life and having some input. And that's helped me so many times. Stress is something we all live with. If you didn't have stress in your life, you'd be dead, and I'd choose to be alive. And if you want to be successful and have good relationships and have other people in your life, you're going to have stress. Children are stressful, marriage is stressful, working is stressful, being alive is stressful, but it's wonderful. It's learning to balance it all. It's learning to step back and say, what can I do so that I can enjoy this? What can I do to stay calm? What can I do to keep it simple? Remember, keep it simple. I'll see you next week. Well, we're back, and I'm sorry to say, but I'm happy to say for you that this is session 15. And you might hear wind chimes in the background there, and something that I've done in my own life is I've really surrounded myself with peaceful things. And my home environment and my life is simple and peaceful, and I've got a great support system. I have a wonderful husband. I've got great kids. They're not perfect kids. He's not a perfect husband. I'm not a perfect wife. I'm not a perfect mother, but it's good enough for me. And I really, really enjoy my life. Is it always perfect? Am I always happy? Of course not. Is my anxiety gone? Of course not. I still have anxiety. When my sister was diagnosed with cancer 2.5 years ago, I was anxious about it. And when she passed away, I was anxious about it. And I'm still anxious about it. I don't like it. But the difference is, that was real. There was a real reason. Do I still have panic attacks? No. Have I ever been on medication for my panic and anxiety? Absolutely not. Am I afraid of it coming back? Not a chance. Do I have a healthy self-esteem? You bet I do. Am I going after my dreams? Yes. Am I afraid of anything? Not anymore. That's the definition of recovery. And I'm hoping by the end of this program, you'll be able to answer yes to all of the things you need to answer yes to, and no to the ones you're supposed to answer no to. Looking at this little card, getting beyond a growth spurt. What a growth spurt is. A growth spurt is a period that you'll probably go through in the next couple of months where you really think your anxiety is pretty much under control and you're on the road to recovery, and whammy, you get hit with something, maybe some kind of stress in your life, as I did with my sister's death and her illness and her death, where some of your symptoms come back. And you start thinking, oh no, is it back? Did I really get rid of it? What do I do now? Relax. It's a practice opportunity. That's all it is. It's a growth spurt. Why we call it a growth spurt is because we think that that's a time in your life where you really need to learn something. That's all. You spend your whole life learning. Life is a learning experience. Can you recover from anxiety disorder? You bet you can. Can you get off your anti-anxiety medication? You bet you can. Can you get off your antidepressants? Probably so. Can you live a full, exciting, and happy life panic-free? Yes, you can. Can you stop having anxiety completely and forever? No, you can't, because you're human. And you wouldn't even want to, because you know, anxiety is energy. But anxious energy is anxiety gone astray. What you need to learn to do is rechannel that energy, your perfectionism and your analytical personality and your creativity and your worry, and rechannel that and use it productively to go after your dreams. Once you're finished with this program, I want you to spend some time thinking about what's next for me. What do I want out of my life? I've wasted all this time worrying and none of it's happened. So now, what do I want to be when I grow up? What is my biggest dream? And then I want you to start going after it. I recently finished a program called Life Without Limits, and there is some literature probably in your Attacking Anxiety program about it if you recently purchased the program. And I'm really, really proud of that program. It's 8 cassettes. And it's more of a success program. It's for people who've gotten over their anxiety disorder and they're saying, now what? I've got all this energy, I'm creative, I'm smart, I'm motivated, what do I do with it? And Life Without Limits shows you the next step. And it's kind of what I did with my life. The Attacking Anxiety program is the roadmap I created for my own recovery. Life Without Limits is kind of the techniques I used to go after my dreams. What were my dreams? I always wanted to write a book. And I always wanted to do a talk show or a television show that helped people. Well, I finally wrote the book this year, and this is it, as we've talked about it before, and it's doing very well. And the best part is, it's from my heart. It's my book. It's me. I didn't write this book for the doctors or the editors or the publishers. I wrote this book for me, for people like you, and I'm really proud of it. And the talk show, I'm proud to say I'm in negotiations on that right now, and it's really up and it's motivating and it's going to be a wonderful show. And if I can make my dreams come true, so can you, because remember, we're an awful lot alike, you and me. And I don't think I'm that bad, and I don't think you're that bad. So We need to move forward and make the best of all the wonderful traits we have and give ourselves a break for the negative ones and work on those and know, again, that a lot of them are just bad habits we've gotten into and negative addictive behaviors that we need to work on and break. This is a great card. It says, I'm all right even in the dark. Change takes courage and I'm courageous. I love, honor, and respect myself. I really, really like the skills or I really like the back page of this card, which says, take a 2-week information vacation. That is a fabulous idea. Take the next couple of weeks, put all this stuff aside, just put it away, and don't look at it. Don't read it, don't listen to it. Take a deep breath and say, I did it. I am proud of myself. Send us your evaluation form, send us a letter, give us a call, whatever, and then put it aside and just breathe easy and relax and enjoy your life. Use your techniques. Get out there and put yourself in situations where you're going to take some chances, and you've got to use what you've learned. And remember, when you start feeling all those feelings of excitement and anxiety, it's excitement. You're excited. You're moving forward. You're getting over this anxiety. You're getting your freedom back, and that's what it's all about. Doesn't matter who you are, where you've been through, how old you are, how educated you are. That's all a bunch of excuses. They aren't worth anything, and you know that. You can be free and you can overcome this anxiety. It's your choice. Send in your evaluation, write us letters, call us, tell us how much you love the program and how well you're doing, because we get cards and letters like that all the time. And then once you've taken a break, go through it again. Pick out a tape at a time, and look through some of the less stress press flyers that we have, some of the other products we offer. There might be something in there that you can relate to. You're never too old to start learning. It's never too late. It's never too late to change. You never have too much information. But remember, if you go along through life and you start to have another anxious episode, it doesn't mean that your anxiety is coming back. There's nothing to come back. Anxiety is just an emotion. Once you are no longer afraid of panic attacks, and once you are no longer afraid of the body symptoms that your anxiety creates, you're on your way. Once you no longer avoid things because of the anxious way you feel, you're on your way to recovery. And that's the key. The key is not being afraid. In closing, I just want to wish you all of the things you want in life. I want to wish you a good, peaceful, calm life with peace of mind and confidence. And I want to end by reading one of my favorite quotes that I put in the beginning of the book. Come to the edge, he said. They said, we're afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came, he pushed them, and they flew. Here's to your wings.